Hi everyone, my name is Camille Ryder and I am a senior in James River High School Specialty Center for Leadership in International Relations. Welcome to FineTuned. So today I wanted to make a little disclaimer before we got started. If you do not know, Drum Corps International is one of the most intense, competitive, and elite organizations you can be a part of as a marching musician or even just a dancer. It requires countless hours of training, physical workouts, musical work, and it all around is one of the most difficult things a person can do, in my opinion. So unfortunately, during the filming of this video, there were some connection issues and I couldn't get the visual of Chris, the interviewee's camera. So instead, I have overlaid some pictures that he personally sent me, as well as his headcam video from a section during one of his shows, which is very cool. So if you have not heard of DCI before today, I would recommend going straight to the What is DCI section, just so you can get a feel and then learn, and then you navigate your way around the video on however best you will educate yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something. Okay, so hi, Chris. First of all, I'd love you to introduce yourself and how you got started in music and how you got from there to Carolina Crown.
Okay, well, my name's Chris. I've been doing music and music-related things for like 9 years now. It all started when I was in middle school, but I was really big into sports. I did a lot of football, basketball, soccer when I was in middle school, junior high school, but it's kind of transitioned to just band. I told him, I was like, hey, I wanted to play saxophone. I was really interested in that. And he goes, I have enough of those. Do you have any other ideas? I'm like, oh, crap. What else is there? Because I didn't know a thing. And he goes in the closet and pulls out this super old trombone. And he's like, how about this thing? I was like, what in the world is that? Because I was so used to instruments having like buttons and stuff. So to hand me something that had like a little slidey thing on it, I was dumbfounded as like 10, 12, 13-year-old. I made the decision to switch to marching band my 9th grade year. I was bigger than everyone else. And I did football and stuff. So they were like, why don't you play tuba? We never have enough tubas. And I was like, okay, that thing's really, really big. How do you expect me to run around a football field with that? And I did it for a while. It really, really sucked as a 9th grader to play that thing. Because we don't play with like sousaphones, as some of you might understand. We do with regular concert tubas that are just, the tubing runs in a way to where you can play it on your shoulder. And it's like 20 some pounds. I know it doesn't sound really heavy, but it was a lot. And then just holding it on your shoulder for hours a day was a lot. The year in between my sophomore and junior, they did it in a group up in New Jersey called Jersey Surf. Starting in November was the first time I went to that camp. I had no idea. I'm not expecting to get a spot or anything. And they used instruments that are way heavier. That tuba is about 36 pounds. 37 pounds, and just it hit me like a brick. Because when I went to rehearsal there, literally it was 12 hours on your feet doing stuff, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but you have to do everything with intent, and they're watching you super hard when you're auditioning, because like everything's an audition. It's not from when you're in the room to when you're just out there doing whatever. Because sure, you have the audition where you walk in a room, play a couple things, do a marching thing for them. That's your audition. But they're watching you the whole time. And if they don't see you doing the same thing all weekend the way they want you to do it, they kind of don't want you to be there because they want you to take it pretty seriously. But I'm just getting exposed to everything at the same time, and it's a lot. I got offered a contract at Jersey Surf, which I was like, okay, cool. Because it was the higher level thing, but I wasn't 100% sure, but got in flying colors, super fun. And every month there's an audition camp. It's 2 days. Get up there, and we instantly start rehearsal once we get up there that night. the first night we got there, we rehearsed for 7 or 8 hours till like 11 o'clock at night. And then we didn't get to shower, and we didn't get to sleep like inside. And just over time, rehearsals sucked. 16, 17 hours a day most of the time. You got like 30, 45 minutes for meals and stuff. I cannot even explain how sore I was for the first month and a half. And the whole thing when you start rehearsing is called spring training. We stayed in like these cabins or whatever, but we still slept on the floor basically. Basic rundown of how a day there went was you wake up. We did PT before breakfast. So we would wake up, we would stretch for like 10 minutes, and then we would work out for like half an hour. We would like run a couple miles and then come back and eat. By then you're already super tired and want to go back to bed because you're sore. So after breakfast, we did sectionals for like 4 hours. And that's where you learn your music and you try to memorize it like as quick as you can. Because it's music we've had for months, but you're finally getting to put it like to your feet into like some drill that you've already learned. So you do sectionals and then you go to lunch for like an hour. And then you go into like, it's still called sectionals, but you're with all of the brass. So you'd be like all the brass and then all the percussion and all the color guard would be separate. So then we did sectionals, like big sectionals. Then you did ensemble for like 4 or 5 hours. And then you get on the bus super sweaty with your instrument and you get back there and you wait 30 minutes for the shower because there's one shower per like 10, 15 people. So that's that first week. They got on us more about things. Things started getting more serious because we were getting ready to go into our first show after the second week was done. So the days got a little longer. You're practicing until 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then you sleep until like, I don't know, 6, 7 in the morning. Most of the time we didn't get a full 8 hours because we had to practice so much. But then it went from more music-based stuff to more visual-based stuff. So go through July, just 3 or 4 shows a week, different state every couple days. And there was big shows like regionals. If you ever been to an NFL game with the amount of people there, imagine that, but every NFL team at the same time in the same place. So it's absolutely absurd. And everybody competes in a 10 to 13 minute show, depending on what you do. There's kind of no. Then summer ended, and I came home that summer about 7 shades darker, and I lost 40 pounds that summer in the 3 months I was gone. I was like literally a third the size I was when I started, like in terms of like, because I lost so much weight. It was ridiculous. Getting to college, I'm figuring stuff out. First couple months, I'm like, you know what? How about I try the drum corps thing again? And then I go to Crown and audition, and I got a contract the first camp I went to at Crown. And I was like, holy crap. They picked me right at the first time they picked people. I got picked with the vets. And I was the least qualified person they picked right off the bat. But I was so into it, I tried really, really hard, and I worked really hard for it. So I guess that was my reward. I got off a contract in November. So I was super, super ecstatic. Then I'm going to their camps every month. I didn't miss one because I didn't want to get left behind. But I slowly but surely figured out how serious the top of any activity is. And we did it all at a university in North Carolina. And we were there for 5 weeks at the same place, which was awesome because we were staying in a college with dorm rooms. So we got to sleep in beds for those 5 weeks. But holy crap, the bed did not make up for the amount of work we had to do. I thought the days were long for when I did surfing and everything. Crown made them longer. I don't know how. I don't know how you could put more time in the day, but they did for how much we did. It was ridiculous. We learned version 1 of the whole show in those 5 weeks. And since I was in one of the top 5 groups, we got to perform at the season opener. We were the big talk for a little while in the beginning. Of course, everyone else had big things. It was the opener. Everyone finally figured out what the shows were, but everyone kept talking about us, which was really cool. And my little rock star moment after that show was I was wearing my uniform. I was trying to run and see one of my friends, and there was like a group of like 30 kids walking up the street, and I was just walking down the street trying to go see my friend, and they all of them stopped and pointed at me and go, "Oh my God, that guy's in Crown." And they all started freaking out. It was like 20 or 30 of them, and it turned into the whole sidewalk of people, which was like 100 some people walking out of the stadium, saw me and a couple of my friends in uniform. It was ridiculous. I did not think people would freak out that much about some people doing band or whatever. But I mean, the stadium was packed, and it was the season opener. So we were performing for at least like, I want to say 60, 70,000 people in total, including online and in the stadium. So it was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous amount of people watching the show happen. So here's what I'll talk about the tour buses. So in 2017 when I marched the first time, and in 2019 when I marched the second time, you have tour buses, which are big. It's like charter buses, but in 2017 they were really bad. They leaked water. Didn't have air conditioning. It was terrible. And you ride around the whole country in this thing. It's basically like your second bed. That's where you do the most sleep, and it's where you learn a lot of stuff. And it's a lot. First bus 10 hours or something. No stopping really, except once or twice to go to the bathroom, because you're not allowed to use the bathrooms on the buses.
So for people,
there's so much to it, you know.
Yeah, it's really complicated. There's so much that goes into it. I don't think people realize even that marching is more than it's so much more than just walking. It's a huge. But anyways, so for people who are watching who don't know what DCI is, what is DCI? And just kind of follow up. You mentioned this in your introduction, but what does it take to be in a top DCI corps?
So what it is essentially is, imagine whatever your sport is, whatever hobbies you're into, imagine that on a professional level. And well, of course, in the NFL and big sports, you get paid to do the thing, but I had to pay to do the thing. But it's the same type thing. And finals, to give an idea, I performed live for 32,000 people that were there in the stadium. And every single person in the stadium was standing up at the end of our show, like cheering and clapping and laughing for you. It was absolutely insane. It's been around so long. There's been thousands of different drum corps that have come and gone, and now we're down to just a measly like 30 some. There used to be like 80 drum corps at one time. Anybody can do it. It's just whatever work ethic you have. But my experience was a plus, and it made it a little easier for me to be acclimated to that. To be there, you just gotta, I'm gonna say patience is a huge thing, and being coachable, and also just wanting to be there.
So you kind of went over this in the beginning, but what is kind of just the basic format of the season? Like, what you said that you're pretty much on for 10 months and off for 2. So what is that basic format?
Yeah. And one thing about Crown that I remember is somebody asked, or I think it was prompted by one of the staff there. It was about being comfortable and having your spot, like you earned your spot or whatever. And one of the staff members goes, "No, your spot is never actually. You don't actually ever have a spot. You're there until you aren't." And they explained that in terms of, if you mess up or you can't do it, you'll be pulled out and somebody else will be put in your spot. Some people would look at that as that puts an extra level of unwanted stress on you when you're already at such a high level. But if you look at it from the mindset of being the professional like athlete that you are, it only helps you. It only gives you motivation. Whereas if you're somebody not as good as like other people, it kind of just, it scares you and it makes you mess up and all this stuff, and it like actually gives you a reason and to not be there. So if you just take that with the mindset of, oh, I'm going to make sure they don't call me out for anything. I'm going to make sure that this is my spot. Things are hard. People left. People got hurt. People got put into spots. And then alternate got put in there, and he finished out the rest of the season. You'll start the season learning one show with a certain set of people, and you'll finish the season with a totally different show with a somewhat different group of people.
So could you speak to the amount of perfectionism that being in a top corps requires, and the amount that of discipline that you have to have to stay in that, to not be replaced by an alternate?
In spring training, we did one of the same exercises every day. I'm not exaggerating, at least 300 times every morning during visual. We did the same thing. If you're perfect on the first time and then like you mess up on like the 78th time or something, they will call you out every single time you mess up out of those couple hundred times. Every single time. Because there's like 7 or 8 staff on each section of the group. Once you get to that high level, there's someone looking at what you're doing every second. And a lot of people would just kind of fold under the stress during the first couple weeks. And just, I remember I was doing a set, and it was in this huge stadium we were rehearsing in, down on the field and up in the box, which is where your judges and teachers and whatever are. My right hand wasn't positioned right on my valves during like one little 8-count move. It was super slow, and my caption head for visual goes on the microphone and goes, "Hey Chris, your hand wasn't right on the instrument during that move. Can you fix that this time?" Literally from like 100 feet away, saw my hand was in the wrong spot and called me out in front of the entire group on it. You get one chance to mess something up, and that's being generous. Because if you mess up the assignment, we were moving so fast and so close together that if you hit somebody, you'll break their leg, you'll break an arm, you'll get a concussion. I got a concussion, and someone backed into me one time and like almost busted my face open. A lot of exercises and a lot of times that just go into doing everything. I think we did at least every set of that show like a couple hundred times a day. So we knew it by the end of it. You don't even need to think twice about where you're going. Your body just kind of does it. If you or anybody has done something that many times, it's kind of like writing your name. You can just do it and you don't mess up. It was that, but with everything we did. Down to the way we breathed before we played, the counting you do, your breathing rhythm while you're moving. So much intent with what's going on from the participants and the teachers. Every word they said, every movement we did, it was for something. You're not just aimlessly doing stuff. Every single thing you do, every movement you made was with intent and was being watched, especially. Nothing had negative connotation to it. It was all constructive.
Yeah, I remember there's a video that came out a really long time ago, like in the 2000s, but it tested the heart rate of a tenor player in a corps, and I'm pretty sure you've probably seen it, but like
yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, it got higher than the average heart rate got higher than a football player's. So despite like all of this that has to happen and all of the frustration, why do you do it? Because you're sleeping in sweaty gyms, you're on a bus. Why do you do it?
It is so fun. And that's what people that just haven't done it or don't participate in that activity understand. And like, I don't expect people to understand why I like sleeping on a bus seat for 6 hours a night. There's times where I didn't like it, but it's those little instances of when you're hanging out with your friends doing stuff, or you're just getting ready in the locker room for rehearsal and someone says something really funny, or like after a show, you're all hugging each other, you had a really good one, or just at the end of the season where you're all crying. Like, I still talk to everybody that I marched with every day. But the last rehearsal, we're all just hugging and crying with each other. We're all like a bunch of babies. Because there's a video on our Facebook group where it's like the last day of tour, where we start with rehearsal, whatever, having fun, having a good time. And then we have that instance where we're all crying and just just not having it because we're gonna miss each other, because we know as soon as that show's over, we're all going our separate ways across the country. And that's what made it for me, was having those people there. And also just winning is cool. Being really good is cool. And there's no way around that. I mean, anybody that does anything professionally will say that, hey, being good is really cool. Being looked up to and being being a reputable source is really cool. Just I look very fondly back on that stuff. At the end of the season, the thing that made it all worth it was one of the last moves we did of our show, and played louder than anything, just making my head rattle. We were playing so loud. And to have all 32,000 people in the stands stand up at the end of our show, at the end of the season, that made everything worth it. You get to perform in front of a bunch of people that really want to see you do what you do.
So, yeah, I do feel like there's a cult following to DCI, and if you are into DCI, you are 100% like, what is something that you wish more people knew about DCI?
So I really wish people would know what really went into it, or like what happens beforehand, rather than seeing the final product, because the final product you see is like version 10 of what it started as.
Have any like artistic credibility, and I don't think that's true anymore. You do, to an extent, get to take ownership, if that makes sense.
You're more so a choreographed performer nowadays than you were back then, because if you're not playing, you're moving or dancing or doing something, and if you're playing, you're still moving and dancing and doing all this stuff. There's people that I marched with that played an instrument, that only played an instrument for DCI, and they were like a professional dancer outside of it. One of my visual instructors was a person who's performed Cirque du Soleil and everything. They brought in a woman that does ballet professionally for like New York or something. And then we had one guy who came in during first camp of 2020 before everything stopped. He was like the hip hop dance professor at like University of Boston or Delaware or something. So like there was a lot of emphasis on everything but music, because music is what it is. You also always have band directors and people that want to come teach, but we learn methodology to dance as well as music at the same time.
Yeah, so I just have two more questions. What are some issues currently facing DCI? And you could talk about this in the context of COVID or before COVID.
Honestly, I like the way that it is because it changes you, which is the whole point. You're there to learn how to be a better musician. You're there to learn how to be a better performer. I mean, of course, things have to change with the times, as all things do. There's not really room for people that don't really take criticism or aren't able to be told something different and change how they do things. Those are the kind of people that don't make it and don't stay in there. The only thing I can really say is like, I wish there was people that could like make better shoes for it, I guess, because my feet hurt a lot and the instruments are really heavy. They could make the sun less hot, things like that. I mean, that's the only things I would really change. Like, but it's a learning experience. You're going there to come out better than when you went in.
Yeah, that leads me into my final question, unless if you have more that you want to say. But I was going to ask, what's DCI looking like in the future, or what are you looking forward to? And I have both of those questions because I don't know if you have something that you're looking forward to seeing in DCI with the current conditions.
I think it's going to try to get as close to what it was before, but it's not going to be what it was. It's because literally you'll have days you're done rehearsing and you all like, because we rehearse, like sometimes we just rehearse with like no shirts on, we're super sweaty, and like you run in and you're all like hugging and touching each other at the end of rehearsal and everything like that will probably never happen again. You have to be close to each other to hear what's going on. You got to be like right up on each other. There's certain moves you have to do where you have to like move each other around to hold each other up, and sometimes just like you kind of got to like reuse instruments and things like that for certain people in certain parts of the field and everything. And so, I mean, it has to come back to the point where people are back together able to do it. But for now, there's no way to tell. Yeah, it took away a huge opportunity for a really big opportunity from an even bigger group of people.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share all of this information with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm so glad that more people are starting to watch my videos and asking me questions. Please continue to ask questions in the comments or send me one directly. I'm happy to respond and answer or get you an answer if I can't figure it out. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned.